Highlights of the action-packed Imperial Toyota Cullinan Rally is proudly presented by Motorsport South Africa and its partners Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sasol and Dunlop. Welcome to round 5 of the hotly contested South African Rally Championship. After visits to 4 provinces across the country, the rally spectacle returns to Gauteng for the second time in 3 months. Round 5 is the Cullinan Rally, held on the dusty dirt roads in and around the historical diamond mining town east of Pretoria, with the support of the Imperial Toyota Group. The rally will be based at the Zonderwater Correctional Facility on the outskirts of Cullinan, with a route that will cover nearly 400 kilometers, with 160 of those spread out over 12 stages against the stopwatch. At the halfway mark of the 2014 championship, it's still Toyota's Leroy Poulter who leads the way with 78 points, a full 16 ahead of Volkswagen's leading man Hans Weiss. Vecken has dropped to 3rd, and he now has the former champion Mark Ronier and his Ford breathing down his neck. Henk rounds out the mid-season top 5. So, with the championship now reaching the halfway mark, it's time to make a move. But will current points leader Leroy Poulter aim for points or rally victory?
We need to carry on pushing hard, see if we can win another rally or another 2.
Consistent results so far this season sees Dutchman Hans Weiss second on the points ladder, but he's after a good result here in Cullinan.
We must score points for sure, but we will see after the first few stages where we are, and maybe we can make our plan after that.
Poulter's Toyota teammate Vecken will want to make a comeback after he failed to finish the previous round in Port Elizabeth.
We have to make up on this one. We're still lying 3rd in the championship, so it's still a possibility.
But they will all have to keep an eye out for the man on the move. Mark Ronier is racing up the points ladder, courtesy of 2 successive victories, and will start the Cullinan Rally as favourite.
Look, I think at the end of the day, we're going to take it one step at a time. It's very difficult to predict in rallying. As you know, there are a lot of different factors, but I can tell you one thing, we're going to try hard.
Cullinan is also the site of Henk best ever result when he achieved a 2nd position here 12 months ago.
Yeah, last year was a good rally for us. It's quite a tight rally. Times are usually very close.
And driving an Imperial Toyota Yaris on his sponsor's event probably means extra pressure on the shoulders of Janelle de Villiers.
It's quite an open rally. There's some stages which are quite sandy, so maybe I'll feel more at home there. So we'll see, but we'll definitely be trying our best.
And 2 more drivers with lightning speed but very little to show for it so far this season are Gugu Zulu and Japie van Niekerk, who will both be eager to fight for a podium finish.
A little bit of luck. We're there, but just need everything to get together.
And I think today and this weekend, the aim is just to, kind of roll the good way and actually make up a good result and aim for a podium finish, please.
Behind the factory S2000 cars, expect to see a battle between Namibians Wilro Dippenaar and Thilo Himmel, with local lad Piet Bakkers also thrown into the mix. And this is the moment that kicks off the second half of the 2014 South African Rally Championship, the 11 o'clock start time of the Imperial Toyota Cullinan Rally. And it's Volkswagen's young gun Henk who will do the honours of opening the road, ahead of the Ford of Japie van Niekerk. Mark Ronier will launch his attack from 3rd, just ahead of arch rival and championship leader Leroy Poulter. The Toyota will be followed by Hans Weiss, while Imperial's Janelle de Villiers will start in 6th, ahead of Gugu Zulu and Vecken. Stage 1 is made up of 8 kilometres worth of very dusty roads around the perimeter fence of the Zonderwater Correctional Facility, where the drivers will be focused on staying out of trouble.
It's the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Henk Lategan and co-driver Barry White that thunders into stage 1. And exactly 2 minutes later, it is Jaapie van Niekerk and Gerard Snyman who drop the clutch inside their new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta. The countdown clock now also reached 0 for defending champions Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton and the number 24 Ford Racing Fiesta. Up ahead and now well within the stage, Henk Lategan was coming to grips with his role as road sweeper and recorded the first time of 5 minutes and 27 seconds. Times on relative short stages such as this one are usually fairly close and prove true once again with the new Africa Developments Ford of Jaapie van Niekerk stopping the clock on 5 minutes and 30 seconds, or just 3 seconds slower than the Polo.
Right early, long right 18.
This is the Ford Fiesta of reigning champions Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton on a mission to record a third successive rally victory. But that was impact with a rock, which must have caused some damage. But the champions set the fastest time regardless.
Yeah, we've got some small issues I've got to get going.
Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee would have been unaware of Cronje's early troubles, so the championship leaders and the Castrol Toyota Yaris pushed hard as always and opened their account with a time of 5 minutes and 23 seconds, 3 seconds slower than Cronje. The Dutch and Belgian duo of Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant are currently second on the championship points ladder. So the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo driver had everything to play for as he opened their account with a time of 5 minutes and 28 seconds.
We did some changes on the car. I'm trying to drive with it, so...
Janelle de Villiers and Greg Godrich set off in their quest to reward sponsors Imperial Toyota, but a time of 5 minutes and 31 seconds was maybe a little too cautious by the Dakar legend.
We made a mistake on the one corner, overshot a bit, so...
And as he said before the start of the event, Hugo Zulu and Carl Peskin were out to change their fortunes around behind the wheel of the third of the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polos, as they set a time of 5 minutes and 32 seconds. This is the second Castrol Toyota in the hands of Hergen Fecken and Caroline Swan. Fecken learned his craft on rally roads in Gauteng and would have seen similar conditions before. His time, 5 minutes and 24 seconds, third fastest.
It was a tricky stage, but it's a good one to kick off with.
For most of the crews, a quick visit to the Dunlop service park meant time to prepare for the rest of the day's 5 remaining stages. But over at the Ford Racing Camp, the situation was much more serious. The impact with the rock tore holes through the gearbox of Mark Cronje's Fiesta. His crew was now in a race against the stopwatch, as they only had 20 minutes in which to replace the entire gearbox. After a fantastic display of teamwork, the Fiesta left the service park in one piece, but 20 minutes were not enough, and Cronje was handed a 1 minute 10-second penalty.
I think to change a gearbox in 27 minutes is just incredible. I mean, the team did a phenomenal job. I didn't really expect to do anything under 30.
Off to stages 2 and 3, which will add more than 20 kilometres of racing distance before the next chance to service. 20 kilometres of more dust and other obstacles just waiting to ruin a rally driver's day.
It's the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Henk Lategan and Barry White who continues to sweep the loose and dusty gravel roads. It's a clear disadvantage to be first on the road, something which all drivers hate to do. But Lategan had no choice and soldiered on regardless. He survived a few scary moments.
I went a bit wide through a corner and got through a gate that was closed.
Jaapie van Niekerk and Gerard Snyman were now also finding their feet on these dusty roads and stopped the clock in a time of 9 minutes and 42 seconds on stage 2, or 3 seconds faster than Lategan. The new Africa Developments Fiesta shaved another 4 seconds off the benchmark time on stage 3 to move into the provisional league. After a frantic few moments in the service park earlier on, the number 24 Ford Racing Fiesta of reigning champions Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton were back in one piece, sporting a new gearbox. But Cronje was already a minute down on his rivals thanks to the penalty. A minute would normally be well within his reach, but the nature of these stages does not really allow to make up chunks of time, and this little altercation with a tree stump didn't help either.
It's much softer. Yeah.
With his arch-rival running into early trouble, the door was wide open for Castrol Toyota's Leroy Poulter to make his move. Together with Alvin Coetzee in the hot seat, the championship points leaders put their heads down to set the fastest time of all on stage 2, followed by the second fastest time on stage 3. But was it enough to take the overall lead of the rally? It was still early days, but everyone knew that we were going to have a fight on our hands as stage times were already proving to be very close. Hans Weiss and co-driver Bjorn de Gant are always up for a fight in the second of the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polos. Weiss lost around 7 seconds to Poulter on these 2 stages, but was still within striking distance and in third overall. The pace at the front of the pack was hot, with the leaders clearly driving at or perhaps even over the limits. So Janelle de Villiers and Greg Godrich opted for a somewhat safer approach, as the Imperial Toyota Yaris completed this loop of stages around 20 seconds behind the leaders. And they say that if it wasn't for bad luck, that Gugu Zulu and Cole Peskin would have no luck at all. And unfortunately for the fastest brother in Africa, the saying proved to be true once again. A prop shaft inside the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo would not play along, dropping Zulu down the leaderboard. No such problems for Castrol Toyota's Hergen Fecken and Callan Swan, who started stage 2 in second position overall behind their teammate Poulter. Fecken lost around 5 seconds to his teammate on stage 2, but set the fastest time of all on stage 3 to cement his second place overall. In the battle between the Namibians, it was Volro Dippenaar and co-driver Kes Naidu who led the way in their PZN and North City panel beaters Toyota Auris. Despite experiencing braking problems, Dippenaar was mixing it up with the S2000 machines and currently occupied 8th overall, 2 positions ahead of the Volkswagen Polo of fellow Namibian Thilo Himmel and South African co-driver Armand de Tooy.
Just 4 seconds separate the 2 Toyotas of Leroy Poulter and Hergen Fecken at the top of the leaderboard, while Hans Weiss has a determined Japie van Niekerk breathing down his neck. Henk Latergan, in the second of the Volkswagens, rounds out the top 5 after the opening loop of stages. Time to move on to stages 4, 5 and 6. These 3 stages were to be tackled on the trot and would conclude proceedings on day 1. Together, they would add nearly 50 kilometres of race distance to the route, so it was crucial to avoid trouble early on.
And trouble is exactly what Janelle de Villiers and Greg Godrich ran into very early on in stage 4. The Imperial Toyota Yaris was reduced to rear-wheel drive only, and rear-wheel drive is not what you need in these sandy conditions. De Villiers slowly slid down the leaderboard to complete the day in a lowly 10th position overall. Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton won the first stage of the event, but have been on the back foot ever since. They received a 1 and 10-second penalty. Cronje is, however, double champion for a reason and started his fight back, but it was perhaps a mountain too high, and he finished the day down in 6th, 1 and 23 seconds behind the leaders. Cronje's first target would have been the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Henk Latergan and Barry White, but despite sweeping the road, the youngster kept his nose clean over the afternoon's loop of stages to maintain his 5th position overall, more than half a minute ahead of Cronje. Ahead of the young Latergan, the rally turned into a fierce fight for podium positions between the new Africa developments, Ford Fiesta of Japie van Niekerk and Gerard Snyman, the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant, and the Castrol Toyota of Hergen Fecken and Callan Swan. A blanket of no more than 11 seconds covered these 3 in all 3 stages as they swapped stage times, sometimes with only tenths of seconds separating them. When the dust settled at the end of the day, Japie van Niekerk emerged in 4th place overall, exactly 5 seconds behind 3rd placed man Hans Weiss, who in turn completed the day exactly 5 seconds off the pace set by Hergen Fecken. It was a great fight that had all the makings to become an epic one on day 2. But while these guys were fighting for 2nd position, Castrol Toyota's Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee quietly went about their business to remain at the top of the standings, taking in 2 more stage victories in the process and extending their overall lead to 15 seconds at the end of day 1. It was still too early to speculate about day 2, but with a bit of a margin, the championship points leader was in pole position to fight for his 3rd victory of the season.
After the break, day 2 of the Imperial Toyota Cullinan Rally gets underway. How high up the leaderboard can Cronje go? And who will stand on the podium? And in what order?
Lights, camera, action, feel the attraction, never wanna let go. Party all the time, VIP the line, never wanna stop, just feeling on top under the neon lights. Having the time of our lives, oh, under the neon lights. Having the time of our lives, oh, under the neon lights.
Box Office is just one of the many perks available to our DSTV Premium customers. Contact us for more info.
Celebrate with Chevrolet as they reveal the new Manchester United jersey and stand a chance to win a signed jersey of your own. To enter, go to supersport.com, web and mobile. Proudly brought to you by Chevrolet. Find new roads.
It's day 2 of the Imperial Toyota Rally in Gauteng, and only 6 stages stand between a number of SA's top drivers and an appearance on the victory podium. But who will it be? Leroy Poulter tops the current standings with a 15-second advantage over his Toyota teammate Hergen Vecken. Hans Weiss is only 5 seconds further back, with the Ford of Jaapie van Niekerk trailing the Volkswagen driver by another 5, while Henk Latergan has some catching up to do if he wants to reach the podium. For once, the name of Marc Cronje did not appear on the leaderboard.
It's going to be a challenging day for us, but unfortunately that's rallying.
The name of Hans Weiss was slap bang in the middle of a fierce battle.
Yeah, we want to push for sure. Yeah, we will see at the end of the day.
Hergen Vecken was within striking distance of the lead, but would he take risks trying to catch his teammate?
There's 5 seconds behind me and 15 in front of me, so we have to push as hard as we can.
And will Leroy Poulter be able to hang on to the lead?
But, we have to wait and see. We'll do our best.
Day 2 of the Imperial Toyota Cullinan Rally is an exact repeat of day 1, so stages 7, 8 and 9 will now be very familiar territory for the drivers. They will also be run without the chance to service the cars in between, so no room for error once again.
As overnight leaders, the job of sweeping the road on day 2 belonged to Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee. And if it wasn't for the time penalty on day 1, Marc Cronje and Robin Houghton would have been second overall. And since time penalties are not considered when determining road positions, the number 24 Ford Fiesta of Cronje is the second car on the road. But the real dice will be for the much coveted podium positions, and a second spot currently belongs to Poulter's Castrol Toyota teammates Hergen Vecken and Kellen Swan, with the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant in hot pursuit. Weiss would have had ambitions to try and chase Vecken down, but he also had the new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta of Jaapie van Niekerk and Gerrit Snyman breathing down his neck. Behind the ones in the podium fight, Henk Latergan and Barry White would have had plans of their own. The first part of the plan was to stay ahead of Marc Cronje, while part 2 of the plan was hoping that they could perhaps join the fight for a podium position. After the morning's loop of stages, part 1 of the plan was working fine, as the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo conceded only a few seconds to Cronje to maintain his 5th place overall. Wilro Dippenaar and Kes Naidu started day 2 in 7th place, with a 28-second advantage over Gugu Zulu and Carl Peskin. So the stage was set for a good battle between the PZN and North City panel beaters Toyota and the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo. But the Namibian's niggles with his older specification car continued, allowing Zulu to overtake him after the morning's opening loop of stages. The dreaded sponsor's curse, which says that a driver or a car very rarely does well on its sponsor's event, struck again when the Imperial Toyota Yaris of Janelle de Villiers and Greg Godrich was reduced to rear-wheel drive on day one, and it was about to get even worse. This time, the differential cried enough, turning de Villiers into a spectator for the rest of the day. Thilo Himmel and Armand de Tooy were having gearbox problems of their own, but still managed to keep their Volkswagen Polo in 9th place overall, while the accident guru Toyota of Piet Bakkes and Sean Visser moved into 10th place and 2nd position in the S2000 Challenge. Back with the leading bunch, the battle was getting really hot. Marc Renier made his intentions very clear by winning the first stage of the day. But the champion was in all reality too far back to have a say. And the Castrol Toyota of Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee was doing a superb job of opening the road. The rally leader did not have to win every stage as he had a 15-second cushion to play with, but controlled the pace beautifully to extend his lead to a full 25 seconds after stage 9. But behind Poulter, all hell broke loose. Hergen Fecken and Caroline Swan quickly realized that it was not worth risking trying to fight Poulter for the win, and soon had the intentions of both Hans Weiss as well as Japie van Niekerk to worry about. The Castrol Toyota of Fecken was starting to lose touch with his teammate, and before he knew it, the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Hans Weiss had moved past him on the overall leaderboard. The gap between these two at the end of stage 8 was a mere 2.1 seconds, which Weiss managed to increase to 3.1 seconds at the end of stage 9. But the men on the move were none other than Japie van Niekerk and Gerard Snyman in the new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta. Van Niekerk started the day in 4th, but drove like a man possessed to propel himself past both the Toyota of Fecken and the Volkswagen of Weiss and straight into 2nd position overall.
Easy dip. Max place left.
The name of Leroy Poulter stays at the top of the standings, but Japie van Niekerk is the man on the move after just climbing from 4th to 2nd. Hergen Fecken loses out as he drops down to 4th, with Hans Weiss still in 3rd, but only a few seconds separate them. Henk Lateghan remains in 5th. Back to the Dunlop Service Park for one last time and a final opportunity for the crews to prepare their final onslaughts, while the machinery received much-needed TLC. Hans Weiss just gained a position, but somehow still found himself in 3rd place.
Good position for championship, but okay, we will fight for the 2nd place in the afternoon.
Japie van Niekerk was so focused on his driving that he didn't even realize he just moved into 2nd position.
and tomorrow we're going to be in heaven.
But at the front, Leroy Poulter was well in control of proceedings.
For sure, I think we're going to try our damnedest to keep them in the lead, and hopefully Akin can come back up as well.
And all that stood between defeat and glory, between the drivers and reaching the end of the Imperial Toyota Cullinan Rally, was one more run over stages 10, 11 and 12, the same 3 stages that were used to end day 1.
The cliche that says to finish first, you must first finish is especially true in the relentless sport of rallying, and a top 10 finish on any round of the South African Rally Championship is an achievement. So Piet Bakkes and Sean Visser would have been pleased with their result when they reached the end in their accident crew-supported Toyota. It was also important for Thilo Himmel and Armand de Tooy to reach the end following a roll on the previous round. So 8th overall would have pleased the youngster from Namibia. The fight between Guga Zulu in his Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo and Wilro Dippenaar in his PZN panel beaters Toyota continued until the bitter end. With just 3 stages to go, Zulu held a slender advantage over the young Namibian, but Dippenaar's persistence and more bad luck for Zulu swung it in Dippenaar's favour right at the end. 7th overall for Zulu and 6th for Dippenaar to go with the S2000 Challenge victory.
One more question needed answering. Who would stand on the podium and in what order?
Unfortunately for Marc Renier and Robin Houghton, the champions would not spray champagne this time around. The time lost on day 1 was simply too much, forcing the number 24 Ford Fiesta to settle for 5th. Volkswagen Sassel Racing's young gun Henk Lateghan and Barry White had high hopes of repeating their result from 2013 when they finished 2nd year in Cullinan. but it wasn't to be, as Latergan had no choice but to take the points that come with fourth. But what about the podium placings? Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gaan started this final loop of stages in third place and had every intention to try and close the less than 2 second gap between themselves and the Ford of Japie van Niekerk ahead of them. This was the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo in full flight on the penultimate stage. But soon after they crashed out of the rally, fortunately with no injuries to either driver or co-driver, but a sad end for the Flying Dutchman.
I took it quite fast and the car was landing on the side, but not really over the side, and then we landed in really loose sand, so the nose get into the sand and the car rolled just over his nose.
The Dutchman's pain was Hergen Vekken's gain as he and co-driver Cullinan Swan gained a position to claim the final podium spot in their Castrol Toyota Yaris. Vekken seemed to have lost a little pace on day 2 as he lost touch with the leaders, but when Lady Luck struck, the former champion was in the right position to capitalize, and his third place finish here will move him back up to second on the championship points ladder. All the drama playing out around him, Japie van Niekerk and co-driver Gerard Snyman could afford to cruise to a career-best finish. The new Africa Development's 4 drivers said before the event that all he needed was for things not to go wrong, and for once it didn't, allowing him to focus on his driving. Second position for van Niekerk. And on most other rallies, 20 seconds don't sound like much, but on this event, 20 seconds was a more than healthy margin. Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee reached the end to claim victory by 20 seconds, following a superb drive in which they carefully managed their advantage over the chasing pack. The third victory in 5 events for the Castrol Toyota pairing, and enough to extend their lead at the top of the championship points table.
Confirmation of Leroy Poulter's third victory of the season, 20 seconds ahead of a career best for Japie van Niekerk. Sadly for Volkswagen, the name of Hans Weiss disappears from the leaderboard, handing Hergen Vekken the final podium place. Henk Latergan finished 4th, ahead of reigning champion Marc Grenier. The well-deserved sweet taste of champagne for Wilro Dippenaar, who claimed the S2000 challenge.
Yeah, I'm happy with the result. It was all good.
And even sweeter champagne for Hergen Vekken, who sprayed it from the third step of the podium.
It's good for the team, very happy.
But the drive of the day arguably belongs to Japie van Niekerk, who finished in a career best second place.
Less of bad luck and more good luck, and it worked on this rally all.
And a near perfect performance from Leroy Poulter, who basically led from start to finish for his third victory in 2014.
We've come out here with a win, and it's what we need for the championship.
And a reminder to also join us next week for the highlights of the Super 1600 battle that took place on the 2014 Imperial Toyota Cullinan Rally. And from a very dusty and brown Cullinan, we now head south to what will be a very green and most probably wet Cape Town for the Toyota Dealer Cape Rally. The majority of the stages will be on fast farmland roads near the west coast towns of Malmesbury and Moorreesburg. And with only 3 more rounds to go, the championship battle will be fierce. So see you in Cape Town on the 19th and 20th of September. Highlights from the Imperial Toyota Cullinan Rally Round 5 of the 2014 South African Rally Championship was presented by Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sassel and Dunlop.